Hello and welcome to this tutorial for LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 through 4. In this video we are going over the level 4-3, which is one of the later levels, but it's probably one of the harder ones we have left. Of the 4 we have left, this is probably the most difficult one. But this lesson starts from Reducto, so you can immediately leave after Reducto is finished, and then land and immediately go in the next door. And then we can Lumos jump to skip a little bit of the movement in this room. For Lumos jumping, activate Lumos, and then switch off the spell, and you get a short period of time where you can double jump. And we use that to go through this door. And then we need to make our way over to the lake. So, moving with P1, what I also tend to do in that room is switch to Hermione and prep Hermione onto the pet spell, because we are going to do another pet warp. In this room we move Hermione to go into this door, and then we're going to do our bridge warp. And for this same setup as always, I tend to run against the wall here, jump and go kind of right, and then flick back to the left and land in about this position here. And then from here, use Wingardium Leviosa. Unfortunately that time I was too late with putting down the pet. We want to put down the pet pretty early with this position, and then that works. But of course, for this trick in particular, you need to hold down and then spam jump once you get the pet warp. Like so. And then you come up like this, and you make your way into the room. If you've still, by this point, not put the bridge back up, then you can take the broomstick across and go with Harry rather than doing the pet warp. The pet warp basically only saves about a second or so in-game, like with the load remove time for this movement, so it's not massively worth it. It's the smallest time save of any of the bridge warps we do. So if you're not entirely confident on it or something, you can just take the broomstick across and that's absolutely fine. But then we make our way into the level. And in this level tends to be defined by, well, this first room, but also, crucially, this very first trick that we're going to do. It's a trick known as Loopy Skip. Basically, you can see it on the right-hand side from where we are. Now you have this wall here. And we basically want to scale that wall. And there's a bit of collision you can use to scale that wall, but it's a little bit awkward to do so, because it requires quite a lot of precision and also a bit of luck from the game, or a bit of positioning, other factors that you don't necessarily need to incorporate for tricks. So first off, I'm going to show the one-player setup. So you drop out player 2, tend to activate Lumos here, or just have the Lumos spell set, and then the dragon will come and land on this pillar. I jump to avoid basically being pushed back. It's not too much of a big deal. But then what we've got to do here is activate Lumos and jump up here. That went surprisingly well, but the camera angle, or the position angle you have to hold, is quite precise. I think one of the former top runners, Zerathix, gave me kind of an indicator which I've used for a long while now, which is about, you want to be about, I think 15 degrees it is above horizontal right. So somewhere about there. Basically you want to be as far upright as you can, while the sprite continues to face what looks like right. The moment the sprite starts facing kind of upright like this, it's not going to work. Also, with how the collision is, you want to be jumping into it each time, because the collision on the floor is just really bad. You can see like this, I'm spamming like this, and the game's not letting me out. Which is why I tend to Lumos jump into it. However, if you're struggling with the angle a bit more, you can kind of start about here and then jump and hit it. Even with this though, there is still some, I guess, micro RNG as to whether the game will actually let you up or not. It feels slightly random. It's a very strange trick to try and you know, say is 100% consistent for a certain method, because you can see sometimes you just don't get the jump. I think it is faster. Oh, not faster. I think it is better if you can mash faster. My mashing speed is pretty poor, so I don't get much luck in this. Which means some of the other runners tend to have a bit more luck than me. But that's the first setup anyway. That's the one-player setup. The two-player setup involves positioning the camera and manipulating the camera so that you can hold D-pad right, and you kind of don't have to hold that precise angle of like 15 up or whatever. So by positioning Hermione, I believe it's somewhere around here, kind of on this, in the shadow, but a slightly lighter texture here. And I believe facing down is kind of the preferred way to do it. You can then hold D-pad up into the wall, and again, maybe mashing speed dependent, but you are able to scale up. That position might not quite be right, might need to be a little bit further to the right. Yeah, there we go. And once again, you see the benefit of Lumos jumping into it. Just gives you so much more chance to be able to get it. You can see once you kind of find a position, this version tends to be more replicable. But it's hard to find that position quickly, and it's hard to maintain the P2 position as well if the dragon is here and still attacking you. Which is why I personally prefer the one-player setup. I know runners like Seed prefer the two-player setup. But either way, once you're over here, drop out player 2, because you don't need player 2, and then we get to do the next trick. I'm going to activate Lumos just as I pass this skeleton head here. That's because normally the dragon will land on that top platform and do another shock, like pushback animation somewhere about here. So I activate Lumos and jump while that landing animation is happening, so that I don't get pushed back. And then once you're up here, it's a Lumos jump up to here. This one's a little bit precise. I tend to try and go for max height here, so try and space out my Lumos jumps a little bit more. If you try and mash through it, then you can sometimes get caught on the edge and it's a little bit annoying. And then we have this trick here. This is one of the I think this is the hardest trick in the room in terms of just getting it to work, essentially. But this is another Lumos jump. We want to make it to the platform over the other side. But because we're skipping the strength handle, we don't get the actual purple like clip-in platform. So have to Lumos jump like that. It's a little bit awkward to get. Definitely need some practice. I tend to aim for kind of just this vertex here where the slope starts to slope down, because I believe you get a bit of respite from the kill plane there. And then you can go up here. But yeah, it's not the easiest. If you are really struggling with that though, you can also lift up the flag. Not do that. You can lift up the flag, activate Lumos to jump on top, and then jump over, and you see I have way more leeway on that. I'm landing here rather than landing there. It's a big difference. But yeah, the one thing with the flag is you've got to make sure your depth perception is good, because the flag can tend to push you back if you're not on the right spot on it. Basically anywhere on this kind of silver middle bit, if you come into contact with that, you will get a pushback of some kind. But yeah, you can make it up. I know some people also choose to go from the very near side. So they choose to jump from about here, which can also work. But again, you've got to be very careful of your kind of edge that you're at with this, because with Lumos jumping, the moment you try and walk off an edge and then try and Lumos jump, you don't get the effect. You'll only get one singular jump rather than two. So you have to be very careful with your positioning. You see, every time there, my Lumos jump's just getting eaten. And it's happening a lot here as well. I think the edge on this is pretty harsh. But yeah, basically you've just got to find which way is comfortable for crossing this gap. There's a few ways that can do it, but I think those are kind of the main three. And then once you've done that, you can jump across here, and then skip straight to this second platform and activate this. The moment this clips in, you can just jump across. You don't need to worry about the fire. Basically, this is just a death plane hitbox, and then the moment, you know, the animation starts, you can just jump across and the fire is no longer active. And then we do one more final skip here. This one is a little bit awkward. So basically, the next section will activate once you have any sort of landing on the upper platform. So the main way to do it is to Lumos jump into this pillar and get a jump off of the pillar and use that to go left. I won't go left onto the top while I'm explaining at the moment. But yeah, sometimes, as you can see, it does get eaten, which is kind of annoying, but then it sometimes doesn't, and it's a bit of a lottery. But I think you don't want, like, the quicker you go towards the pillar, the better. But what you can also do from here, annoyingly I have the dragon after me right now, but what you can do from here is, if you're struggling a little bit, you can also raise the flag again. And then by raising the flag, you can Lumos jump from this top edge onto here. Again, trying to avoid getting pushed back by the flag. And then from there do a second Lumos jump to make it up to the top. And then you can go into the next section. Okay, so for this section, it's a fairly simple section, but there's a important piece of tech we need to cover here. The first thing is this bit's already on a timer for the camera pan, but then the AI starts moving, like so. What we want to do here is basically take a death with player 2, so that they respawn in front of player 1, because we can just run straight to the end of this section, but we want to use basically the dragon's ability to kill the characters to be able to, you know, move further forwards through the section. Most of these are random and just will happen depending on, you know, subtle deviations in the paths that the AI takes. But the first one is always consistent. And basically we manipulate the first one with the Immobilist spell. So we have, Harry on Immobilist here. And basically what we're going to do is run down until we see the first corner. Where basically there's a small turn to it would be a turn to the left as the characters see it. But the path basically deviates to go slightly further right. And as we round that corner, we're going to fire off a shot at Immobilist to try and hit Hermione. And if this hits Hermione, then Hermione will be caught by the Immobilist spell. So we'll see that here. So the shot's fired, Hermione gets caught. Fantastic. So that's step 1 done. We then just keep running with Harry until Hermione dies to the dragon. Like so. And then once Hermione's died, we hold down right with the camera. And then what we're going to do, once we hold down right, we're going to keep holding it until we get level with this statue here. And then we're going to switch. And you see Hermione's warped significantly further ahead now. And we're able to use that to save. I think it's like 2-3 seconds. It's quite a small save. It's certainly not a run killer if you don't get it or anything. But it's a nice time save to have. But then the rest of this section is just kind of emphasis on getting cleaner lines and like that. If the dragon kills you and you move further forwards, you take that opportunity. In fact, we got 2 here, so we got quite unlucky. Auto-scroller here. Sometimes it varies a little bit, but then we just go from here to the end of the section. And that's about it for this level. I will show it again, but going faster this time. Okay, so doing this section again, but faster, so you can see, hopefully, the dragon cycles and such. I'm going to go for the one player loopy skip method. If you want to do the 2-player loopy skip method, I recommend watching Seed's PB, Seed Amnestics PB. I'll link that down below. But yeah, we kind of just go like this. I'm going to time the jump round when I get past these rocks. It was a little bit late that time. But we get the loopy skip over. And then I'm going to time the jump onto here. Like so. Lumos jump up. Set up for this Lumos jump. And then skip this platform. Land here. Once that's clicked in, we can immediately go. And then Lumos jump onto here. and then Lumos jump up to the top. And for this section, activate Immobilis, and then kind of run into this corner. And then I'm going to be setting up for the Immobilis skip again with Hermione. So run down into this corner, shoot like so, wait for the death, there it is, pan down right, and then switch. The camera kind of weirded out a little bit there, that might have been, I waited a tiny bit too long before switching. Annoyingly, this time around, both the characters are kind of level. We kind of want there to be a difference so that the AI character is more likely to take a death. This might be a good spot for a walk. Yep. That one is like fairly common if you do the Immobilis strat at the start. There are certainly some spots where you die which are more consistent than others, but trying to convince the AI characters to die in those spots isn't always that easy. But yeah, that is the end of the level. It's a very quick level if done optimally, but there's a lot of potential pitfalls that can happen if things go wrong. But yeah, that's it for this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.